Thank you for listening to Two Girls, One Plant.
We're your hosts, Madison
and Jillian, and this week we're going to be talking about our top tips for beginners.
Woo! Top tips for beginners. So it's kind of a broad topic.
It is kind of a broad topic.
And we're going to mostly talk about like what's worked for us, what people recommend. Did we fail at those recommendations?
Kind of see how that actually went for us.
Yeah.
And do you want to start with a quick recap? How'd your week go? How the plants doing?
Oh, gosh, Jillian. I think with Thanksgiving, and I'm sure you could agree with this because you were gone for 2 weeks, Thanksgiving was really stressful for me. So because I had so much stress, I just kind of neglected my plants.
I feel like most plants are neglected the most around the holidays.
Yeah, and I think with winter, it's because there's not as much light. You don't have to water as often. But I kind of like tested that theory and went a little too far where it got very critical with a couple. My poor, neon syngonium died, and I was really sad about it. But I did
really
water
patient
it
too. I'm not gonna lie, they're patient plants.
Yeah, so that happened. But I did water everything, and I think everything's going to be okay. What about you? Recap for you for the week.
Well, we did get back from our vacation, and most stuff survived. As it turned out, our trick of putting some yarn from, big old 5-gallon bucket into each of the pots kind of worked.
Yeah.
I had our house sitter, Sam, kind of make sure that the Phytonias weren't too dry in between.
Yeah.
It seems like it wasn't foolproof.
Phytonias are Diva E.
They're Diva E, and if the yarn didn't have enough water going to it, it might pitch a fit. But honestly, they did really well. So far so good. I haven't lost too many plants yet. We'll see how this week goes.
Because how long have you been back now? You've been back about a week, right?
Yeah, like a week now.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, we're recovered. I've gone through all the plants. It's on me now if something happens.
Yeah,
so
totally.
We'll see. Wish me luck.
Yeah, I do. I do wish you luck.
But we've got top tips to help us be better this week, so that's okay.
We need to follow our own advice today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so we kind of broke it down to different categories, because if you do a very simple Google search, philodendron plant care tips or begonia plant care tips, all those articles break it down: soil, water, light, fertilizer. And then it gets really, really complicated, I feel like, on other websites. So we're going to kind of take that same format a little bit and just kind of break it down and not make it so complicated.
Yeah, exactly. This will be a really good foundation. So if you're new to plants, it's a good you can't build if you don't have a solid foundation.
Totally.
So this will be a nice way to dip your toes into taking care of your plants and keeping them happy.
Yes.
And we're going to start with soil because it's really important and seems really basic and is more complicated than just buying Miracle-Gro. So if we could not do that.
No shame in that. No shame in that.
No shame. I have definitely purchased Miracle-Gro when I have no other options.
Yeah.
I've also had fungus gnats and killed some plants.
Yeah.
So what soil mix do you typically use for your plants?
So I use Pharm soil.
Okay.
That's what I like to use. It's all organic. They have one that you can buy with bat guano in it, and then they have one where you can buy fish.
They have one you can buy with what?
Bat guano?
Backdoor iguanas? I don't understand. No. I literally don't.
Bat shit. Remember the movie Ace Ventura? Where he's like, guano.
Yeah.
That's what it, and he's like, and the pottery is lovely. Do you remember? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, bat shit. So they put bat shit in their soil. So it's all organic.
Okay.
And then they have another one where it's just fish fertilizer in the soil as well. And there's no, you dropped your phone.
I did.
But there's no added plastics or fillers that's going to get in the way of the plant. So that's what I like to use. I did use Miracle-Gro in the beginning. There's nothing wrong with that. I didn't have any issues. It has slow release fertilizer in it.
Right.
And it still worked fine. There was nothing wrong with it. But once you explore more and get more into plants, I think you find there's just stuff that just works even better. So what do you use?
Yeah, I try to take it by plant. So, I mean, some plants will do okay in Miracle-Gro and make it work. If I do buy Miracle-Gro, I usually try to buy the cactus and succulent one just because it's a little more airy than the actual Miracle-Gro, which really retains a lot of moisture. So it can just be really easy to get root rot. It really depends on the plant for me. So, for example, I have a lot of aroids, and those are usually in like a really chunky, really airy mix. I actually started buying from like, I think it's called Orchid Nut or something ridiculous like that on Amazon.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, they make like a really chunky orchid mix, but it really works for philodendrons and most aroids, honestly. So I use that with like wood chips, perlite, charcoal, all that thick
aeration type stuff.
Airy stuff. Yeah, it works really well for them.
I did that. So I recently repotted like close to 30 or 40 plants because they were all in my nursery pots still. So I was like, I just was putting it off and I was like, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to spend a day. I'm going to buy a ton of stuff.
It's really brave in the winter too.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I did it right before where it was still kind of warm out.
Nice. Okay.
So I was like, I have to do this now or I can't do it over the winter. Like it's not worth it. So, what I did was I used Pharm, and then because it was mostly philodendrons, mostly aroids, I did do about, I want to say about 50% of just the basic soil. And then I did add like orchid bark. I did add like a cactus mix. I added a ton of perlite, which you can buy separately.
And it's so cheap.
It is so cheap. And then I use worm castings, however you want to say it, which again is a natural fertilizer. And yes, the soil I do buy does have fertilizer already in it, but I just love worm castings, however you want to say it. And it just adds such a great natural fertilizer to it. And it just made it so chunky. So I noticed with that I do definitely have to water a little bit more because it is more aerated.
Right.
But I noticed that I'm not getting root rot now, which is really great. So
yeah, it makes a huge difference.
It does. Yeah.
And then I have some pothos in leca.
Yeah, let's talk about leca.
Which is its own. It's basically
so
like
trendy.
Puffed lava rock.
Lava rock? Or no, I thought perlite was. Perlite's puff lava rock. Is leca also?
I don't know. I think so.
Should we Google this?
Yeah.
We're going to do a live Google real quick. Because I thought it was like...
It stands for like clay.
Yeah, that's right. It's like an acronym.
Clay. Maybe it's...
Hold on. We're
clay
doing a live
aggregate.
Google. Leca.
It's heated clay.
Heated clay.
Yeah, that's
where it's like super dried out.
Yeah, and heated to like a ridiculous degree, and it like puffs. And they roll it around, and so most of them are like a nice round shape, unless you buy like cheap leca, which I've done, and it's like funky.
Yeah.
Ovals and stuff.
And you have to soak leca beforehand, or like
clean it out really, really well and soak it, and then give it a day. And
how many plants do you have in leca?
Just my pothos.
Just your pothos? Okay.
Yeah, I got an aquaponics set on Facebook, total fluke. It was like free. The guy was like, you can take it, but you got to take the pothos and the goldfish and everything. And I took everything.
Yeah.
And he had all of the grow bed, all of the media was leca. So I took it all out. I soaked it, cleaned it in hydrogen peroxide, let it sit for a couple days, rinsed it out again, and tried to kill all of the organic matter that was in there because he'd had pothos that were living in there for like, for like 5 years or so, and he'd never like repotted it or done anything with it. So I cleaned that out. But that's been really interesting. It's cool. And the pothos seem really happy in it. So
it's really trendy right now. I feel like Instagram is like everybody, all the big people on Instagram are just talking nonstop about leca and like swear by it. I think I only have my Thai constellation and like maybe like 2 other aroids in leca, and they seem to be doing fine. Like I haven't noticed anything that's like jaw dropping. Like I need to convert all my plants to leca right now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say it's one or the other. Yeah. And if you're going to do all leca, like I would look into it if you are just starting out, because it can stress the plants out, and you just want to make sure that they have the perfect environment after you transition them to it. So I wouldn't say it's the best beginner medium, but it's really nice if you can't have pests or if you have cats, like if there's some reason you can't have soil all over the house.
You don't like soil. Yeah, if you're messy like me and you just get soil everywhere. Soil's messy. It's
my
so
poor
annoying.
partner is so patient.
I know. I've had soil on my floor for the last like 2 weeks since Thanksgiving.
And
I was just like, I'm just going to leave it there. I just can't be bothered with it. And he hasn't said anything to me. I finally cleaned it up today. I'm not a messy person, I promise.
It's just the plants.
It's just the
lot.
plants. It's overwhelming sometimes having that many plants.
And then once you pick the perfect soil for your plant, how do you know how much to water it? What's your rule of thumb?
So I go until I notice a certain plant, the leaves start to have a little bit of droopage. Some are a little bit faster than others as far as like their droopage goes.
Yeah.
Like we talked about Photonia being
Super
very
dramatic.
dramatic. Like they look like they're dead.
Yeah.
And then you water them and they're like, what? I thought you were dead.
Yeah.
So I just go by just how the leaves are reacting, and I look at the soil around the pot if it starts to break away from the edge of the pot.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I did do the whole put your finger
the first couple
soil.
Inches or so.
Yeah, I did do that. I did use a moisture meter, which highly recommend.
That's what I typically do, honestly.
Yeah. Do you have a moisture meter?
I do. I have a moisture meter and I use it for pretty much everything.
Yeah, I loved it. I used to write the number down like on little care cards for each plant so I could remember like what was the number it needed. And then I was like, this is too much work. I just need to stick my finger in here. But I mean, that's kind of like my rule. Because it's winter, I definitely have dialed back on watering as much. So now it's like once every 10 days on most stuff. So what about you?
That's not too bad, and you're on like a pretty consistent schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure,
kind
consistent.
of. Yeah. The plants are on your schedule.
Yes, they're on my schedule.
Yeah, I'm kind of all over the place, honestly. Like when I have a couple of hours to spare, I'll just hop around the room with my moisture meter and see what needs watering. I've tried to take a whole day and like really focus on every plant.
Yeah.
And there's no time. I don't know how people do that. So, yeah, I do it piece by piece. But I'll run around with the moisture meter and I kind of know like, you know, my begonias, I don't like get below like 4 or 5. The alocasias don't get below 3.
Yeah.
All of my cacti, I just let get super duper dry.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Aloes.
I think for like a lot of plants, obviously they like more moisture. And there's like that saying where keep the plant moist that when you read it like on a care card.
Yeah.
And it's like what the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? Keep it moist. Okay, I'll keep it moist. And then when you do, it gets root rot or you get fungus gnats.
Yeah, it's got to be the right level of moist. It can't be too moist or it's going to rot. But
I hope we're triggering people who hate the word moist. I hope you're all triggered.
Probably. Sorry.
Sorry. There are those people out there. Moisture. Sorry.
Do love my moist meter.
Love our moist meter.
We'll move on. Yeah, it's important. Watering is really important, and it's goes by plant too. Like I would say, for whichever specific plant you have, like you'll know if it tends to need a little more water or a little more water or a little less water, depending on where you have it.
Yeah, and I think it's good to know also where do your plants grow naturally? Are they from South America? Are they from Africa, East Asia? That kind of helps you know too, because aeroids grow on trees. That's what that means. So they going to need more water just hanging out on their roots? No, because they're not used to that.
They don't want to sit in it.
Yeah, they don't want to sit in it. So I think if you kind of do that little bit of research on like what the whole genus talks about, like that's going a little bit above and beyond in the beginning, but just knowing that, okay, these like to be in the air, I'm just going to water it a little bit less than say my begonia or my alocasia.
We're really just trying to emulate their environment in our homes.
Exactly. They're a lot happier.
Keep them thriving.
They're a lot happier. Do you use filtered water?
I mean, I would like to say that I do. Not enough.
Okay.
So my calatheas have some brown edges here or there.
Yeah.
I do have a fish tank, so whenever I clean out the water, I try to use the fish water.
Ooh,
super helpful because it's got a lot of extra nutrients. It's dechlorinated, so that's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but otherwise, not really.
Not really?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. Do you?
Yeah, I have an attachment that I bought from like Home Depot that just is on my sink, and you can like switch it back and forth. And it's filtered, but it doesn't take out fluoride, which I know a lot of plants are sensitive to fluoride.
Yeah, so you can't water like a carnivorous plant with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I do buy distilled water. I buy a gallon of it. It's super cheap.
Do you refill them? Where do you go?
So actually at my job at Whole Foods, there is a refill. They have reverse osmosis water. They have alkaline water. They have distilled water. It's 39 cents a gallon. So if you're looking at that, or just go to like Walmart, buy $1 jug if you just really want to do that, if you don't want to refill it. But I have found that the distilled has helped a lot with my calatheas and my sundews, like all those carnivorous plants that are really sensitive. Dracaenas are another one. They hate Dracaenas hate fluoride. Can't stand it.
I thought they were super easygoing, like office plants.
They totally are. But fluoride, you'll see in those offices that like there'll be brown edges around the leaves, and it's the fluoride that's killing them. That they just can't stand it. So you can go online to like your municipal website, like in your county, and you can actually look up what pathogens or hard minerals, fluoride, and how much is in your water in your county.
So you know what you need to filter out.
Yeah. So if it's even worth buying distilled water or filtered water or a filter, I looked into like buying a reverse osmosis kit for my home, but it's like $300. I'm like, girl, I don't got time for that.
That's kind of a lot.
It's kind of a lot. I'll just buy water.
Get a beta fish. Or worms. I know a friend of ours makes worm like tea.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yeah. There's a couple people on the Denver Plant Pals who make worm tea, which sounds disgusting.
Apparently works really well.
Apparently it works. Yeah. Are you a mister? Do you mist your plants?
Okay, I used to, but I moved all of my plants, all of my tropicals into the plant room, and now I just have a humidifier running 24/7. So they're very spoiled in there. But I did used to mist 2 times a day when they were out and about in my house.
Do you feel like misting made a difference when you did it? Like before you like moved everything?
Based on what other people have told me, I think it made me feel better.
It's like a placebo.
But it's like a placebo. I don't know if the plants actually cared or not. People say that it's like it doesn't really work, or like for my calatheas, I was told you have to do it on the underside of the leaves, not on the tops. Right. Otherwise, it won't really absorb any of the water. Some plants don't really like to have water sticking to them. So like begonias, a lot of them, you can't really mist them because the water sticks to their leaves and they just want to rot away.
They get fungus.
Yeah, it's really gross. So it really depends on the plant. Pebble trays actually do kind of work in a really concentrated way. So that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I have done the pebble tray thing. I felt like it worked, but I was so bad at just keeping it
full of water. Yeah.
And then I noticed fungus gnats getting in there.
Yeah, see, that's not as worth it anymore.
So I was like, oh, this is gross.
Yeah.
I do sometimes mist, but I do like, I call them medicine mist. So I will put like neem oil or rosemary oil in, and that's when I will spray the leaves, and it's more like a pest deterrent for me.
I do have alcohol and water in a spray bottle for my alocasias right now.
Yeah, that's the only time I'll mist, and I think I do it like once a week. And it's like, great, here's your medicine for the week, and that's like kind of it.
Yeah.
So I don't, but as far as like the humidity control thing like goes for misting, it's, to me, like you said, it kind of like makes you feel better.
But it doesn't really
do it because it's so dry here. It's so dry in Colorado. The water like just completely evaporates within like a minute. So it's like you're kind of wasting your time doing it.
Yeah.
So that's when you should invest in a humidifier.
I would just get a humidifier. If you're going to have tropicals, just get a humidifier. Yeah. It's worth it.
What kind of humidifier do you have? Is it like...
It's not great. I saw like all the great YouTubers had like a Levoit, and I was like, I'm not getting a Levoit because that's what real plant people have.
Yeah.
But I couldn't afford like the super nice Levoit that like has the humidity control gauge and stuff. So I have the cheaper one that you have to fill in the sink and like take apart. It stinks. I'm not going to recommend. It's okay. It does the job, but it's not great. I really want, it sounds silly, but for Christmas, I actually want this humidifier that like it's supposed to run for like 4 or 5 days. You can fill it from the top. It's like huge. You don't have to take it off.
I know what you're talking about.
So it looks amazing.
Oh my gosh.
But it's like a $250 humidifier.
Ew.
So we'll see.
Ew.
I know.
These humidifier companies are jacking up the prices because of the plant community. Mm-hmm. That is what is happening. Yep. They know that we are buying
these humidifiers. It's not the babies. It's not the sick. They know plant people are buying them up.
They do. They can mark it up. They know their market. They're smart. Capitalism is a real thing.
So I'll get my super nice humidifier one day.
I hope you do.
Yeah, we'll see.
I hope you do. So I do have a Levoit, and I have another one that is similar to the Levoit. It definitely goes through water a little bit quicker, but I love the Levoit. I paid like $70 or $80 for it. I love it.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Can't recommend it enough. I felt like it was worth the investment because it was just like peace of mind, and I hate refilling humidifiers. Like that's my partner's job. I take care of everything else when it comes to plants, but I told him the one job he has is just to make sure the grow lights work, and he refills the humidifiers.
Is that what I should be doing? Is that the secret? Because I can do that at my house
I think you should.
Okay.
That's his one role. So he's in charge of that. And he forgets sometimes, and I just have to remind him when it's empty. But I feel like it's helped so much just having, like, definitely, like, grouping your plants together helps with their humidity, like,
absolutely.
ones that are alike. But just having that humidifier right there just helps so much. And plus, it's better for you. It helps deter, like, viruses in your home. It helps you not get nosebleeds. It helps with so many other health issues.
Especially in Denver's dry air.
Definitely.
And you mentioned grow lights. So what kind of grow lights do you have?
Oh, gosh. I'll put a link in the show notes. I got them off Amazon, and I've been shopping for grow lights for such a long time. I have some that I bought from Lowe's, and they're not like LED strip lights. They're a little bit more intense, and I have that for my propagation.
Okay.
And I love them. Those are amazing. Yeah. These ones that I just bought off Amazon, I've only had them up for a couple weeks because I've been shopping. I knew I was going to spend a lot of money on them. And I think total I spent about $150.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
And that's just for like a full entire system of grow lights per shelf. Like I think I have close to like 8 to 12 lights.
That's awesome. You're going to have to put the links in the description and then send them to me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, and they're pink. They're pink lights. They aren't the white light. I did not want white light because I felt like it was going to be too bright.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to still like live in my house throughout the day and not have to worry about the lights and being too bright in the home. So I did get pink ones or blue and red ones, or purpley hue ones. So I did buy those, and I do like them so far. I don't really...
Yeah, that's really nice. I like that. I still haven't really invested in grow lights. So I've been relying on sunshine, which is great because I've got a lot of windows in my house. But over the winter, it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
Because the sun's just not, we just don't have that many hours in the day. It's just not as bright.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like for light, what like direction? I know you said you have a lot of windows in your home, but like what direction is like
the
it
back of the
facing?
house, and all of those windows around the back of the house and through the plant room are all southwest facing windows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's pretty decent. It's not bad. And we have like a lot of windows.
That's the best you can have.
Yeah, it's really not bad.
So I have eastern facing, and during the winter by like 11 a.m., like the sun's already on the other side. It's gone. I feel like it looks like it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of weird. So for those of you who don't know, primarily south facing is going to get the most sun.
The hardest sun.
The hardest
like the brightest,
sun, most intense, most direct. Then it goes western, eastern, and then northern.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand this for the longest time. I'm like, wouldn't western be number one? Like, because like that's when like the most sun is in the afternoon and it's most intense. But because we're in the northern hemisphere, the sun is south.
Just hits that angle.
Yeah, so I didn't realize that. So for you having southwestern facing windows, like that's awesome.
It's not bad at all. And we've just got like 1-story houses all around us. So there isn't really too much blocking it. It's really good. So I've got like all of the cacti straight up in the windowsills, all of the aloes, gasterias, haworthias, all those kind of funky guys in the bay windows. And then pretty much everybody else is in the plant room. Yeah. So I do want an extra light in there. I have a space for a T5 bulb in the aquaponics setup.
Okay.
And it seems like I just want to go to a store and find one. I don't want to have to order like 5 of them online.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to just get like a couple of bulbs to replace it.
Right.
Just for the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
what
once
I
summer
did,
hits too, everything will be fine.
Yeah, totally. I think too, like, again, going back to our care cards that are so reliable. For light, a lot of times it will say low light, medium light, and bright light or bright indirect light. For the longest time, I was confused by this.
Yeah.
Weren't you?
It's a lot of different names for like the same intensity of light. So I actually saw a really cool diagram, and if I can find it and like find a way to disseminate it somehow, I will, so everybody listening can see it. But it literally looked at a room with the sun coming in and tells you what each bit of light would technically be considered, which was really helpful actually. Right. I've also gotten high many times and just sat around my room and like watched the light move through, which sounds really silly, but is the best way to know where your plants are going to be happy. Right. So that was really nice. It's a good way to figure it out. Yeah, because your more hardy plants can definitely survive in low light. Yeah, but low light is like low light tolerable. I think it's Plantarina that makes a really big effort in saying that. Amanda from Plantarina. But it's true. It's a light tolerable. Yeah. Like all of my snake plants are in pretty bright light. Mm-hmm. I put my Raven ZZ this past week in full sun. It's fine. Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, like philodendron, it's such like an umbrella term, I feel like, for philodendrons. And some philodendrons like do really well in bright indirect, and a lot of them are like, they do not want that. They will get sun crisp and die. Yep. I learned that lesson the hard way. I called it field trip days. So during the summer, I tell all the plants, okay, we're going to go on a field trip. And I would take them all outside and let them just get like full sun for like 3 hours. Aww. And I remember I didn't move them, and came out, and a lot of my philodendrons had serious sunburn. They got sunburn on their field trip. Yeah, they got serious sunburn. Didn't put any sunblock on them. Wow, you can have a lot of angry parents. So that was like really heart-wrenching, and finally they have sprung back. So like none of them like fully died. I just had to prune them. But so just be careful, and like Jillian said, like it's such a good idea to watch like the light in your room and see where like what areas get the most sun. So if you're blessed and have a lot of windows and not an apartment, it's good to watch out where your light is. Yeah, so. Or an apartment on just the right side of the building. Exactly. You know? And the last important note for light, I would say, is if you have something variegated, just know it might need a little more extra light. Yeah. All those white bits aren't actually helping the plant at all. So, you know, you don't want to burn it, but just know that Thai constellation may need a little more light than a regular delicioso would. Yeah, and variegation's so interesting because they just don't have chlorophyll in those spots. So they're not totally making useless food for them. Yeah, they're useless, but they're so beautiful. But because they are not making food right there, what happens is they die faster, and to get food, they are eating the sun. So that's why they need more sun. I've had some white leaves melt like butter. Oh, melt like butter. And you mentioned fertilizer, so you typically use worm castings. Yes, worm castings, and I do have a liquid fish thing that I do mix in with my watering. That's what I've had most recommended to me, is like a seaweed fertilizer or some kind of fish-based fertilizer. Do it. It's awesome. Highly recommend. It does smell. But you have your aquarium. Yeah, there's a fish tank back there. Yeah, I've read a lot of people who will take water from their fish tank, and they do use that for watering. And that counts as fertilization. That's got all the minerals they need. All right, that makes it pretty easy. Yeah, you could do that. How often do you fertilize? I fertilize, so during the summer, I was fertilizing 1 to 2 times a month, depending on the plant. So I would do fertilizer 1 week, plant deterrent next week, fertilizer, plant pest deterrent. So I went back and forth. During the winter, I am not fertilizing whatsoever. I'm just counting on my worm castings to be that fertilizer and get enough nutrients. Yeah, nobody's really growing too much anyway. Yeah, they're not growing. A lot of them are going dormant. They just are happy just chilling in their pot. So, and it's, but what do you use? To be honest, I don't really use much of anything. Most of the soil I've had has some kind of fertilizer in it. Okay. And I've been using a lot of fish water, so I've just been kind of taking it easy. Okay. Plus, it's winter, so I figure when spring comes, I'll kind of do the research and go through all the trouble of figuring it out. But so far, everybody's pretty okay.
What do you think about slow release fertilizer?
I mean, it sounds easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as it works.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it works?
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of times nurseries will, like when you buy your plant, it has that slow release fertilizer in it already. And that's just because they're baby plants. They're only like a few months old, so they need slow release to continue to grow and get like a jump start. And there's like this huge debate where it's like, well, how often should I fertilize then if it already has that slow release fertilizer?
It just shouldn't, right?
Yeah, well, see, I've been reading a lot more about this, and apparently slow release fertilizer is about 6 to 9 months activated.
Okay.
And after that, it doesn't work anymore. So that slow release for a lot of those plants that we buy,
it's already passed.
It's been in there for about 4 to 5 months. So usually, oh my gosh, what is his name? I'm like having a brain fart right now. But anyway, there's, you usually want to wait about 3 months after you buy your plants until you full on fertilize.
Okay.
Me, I've done it where I'm like, girl, I got you. Let's fertilize you now. And I haven't seen like any burning of the roots. I just dilute it like the hell out of the water. So as long as you are diluting a lot.
Yeah, and it's not too much for the plant. It's okay.
Totally.
Okay.
So, have you ever used spikes? I always see those fertilizer spikes.
I haven't actually.
Yeah,
and I've thought about using hydro spikes for the vacation too. And I've just ended up not doing that. I ended up going the cheap and easy route and doing like yarn and making it work.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of people have a lot of luck with them, actually. Amanda, who I know we were just talking about, uses spikes in some of her plants. They do pretty well.
Interesting. Something I should look into. Huh.
Yeah, make it a little easier.
Now that I'm becoming more lazy.
I mean, we have jobs. It's
hard. So we talked a little bit about while we were talking about watering, we talked about fungus gnats. Dun 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 dun. Fungus gnats. So pests are the bane of everybody's existence. And here's what I'll say. This is my soapbox. We're bringing the outside inside. Right?
Yeah.
We're bringing nature in. So what's part of nature? Pests. And it just comes along with the hobby. It comes along with the obsession is having pests. And it's super easy to manage, but I think you kind of need to know a little bit more on what works for like each pest. So for me, I've only had to deal with fungus gnats. I know you've had to deal with a little bit more than just fungus gnats, right?
Yeah, I had thrips on a Xanadu, which honestly I thought we were getting a hold on, and then we went on vacation and came back and like they totally torn apart the new leaves. So pretty sure we're gonna have to yeet that Xanadu. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And what are thrips exactly? So for people who don't know, it's like,
gosh, they're like tiny little pests that basically suck the nutrients out of the leaf.
Don't they look like kind of like gosh, are they black or are they white? I can't remember.
I think they're black. They are so small. I can't see them on the leaf.
Yeah, you have to use like a magnifying glass.
Which highly without my glasses.
Get a magnifying glass.
I really do need to get one, honestly.
Yeah.
But I've also seen people recommend like getting a piece of paper and putting it underneath and kind of tapping the leaves so that they fall into the paper and you'll kind of see the contrast on the paper.
Okay.
But yeah, they're really tiny. They really stink.
Ooh.
And not actually.
Oh,
stink, but
it's like they stink.
They just stink. They're just terrible. And it literally looks like your leaves are like being sapped of their color. Aww. And I was basically just every day wiping down every single leaf with alcohol, Dawn soap, and water to try and get them off. That or neem oil, basically. Mm-hmm. And then I've also had spider mites on.
You've had spider mites?
Yeah. I basically got back from my vacation. All of the alocasias had spider mites.
What?
Which, honestly, like alocasias and ivies, like are begging for spider mites. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up just throwing away my Adora because I was like, that's disgusting. But everything else I've just been wiping down. So I told you I have a spray bottle in my room of water and alcohol.
Yeah.
And I'll spray them down every day. do an inspection, and every couple of days I'm wiping down all of the leaves. Like on my stingray, for example, I basically took off all of the leaves except for like my one newest leaf to just make it easier to handle.
Yeah.
And you should be really consistent, like really consistent.
Yeah, you got to stay on top of that because it's so easily to like spread to your other plants.
Yeah.
It's scary how fast it can happen.
Yeah.
Do you quarantine your plant if it like does have pests like spider mites or thrips or?
The thrips I quarantined.
Okay.
Spider mites, honestly, they've only been after my alocasias.
Okay.
So I've checked the plants around them. Like, for example, I have a couple of prayer plants that are right next to one of my alocasias. I was a little worried about them. They were all pretty okay. So I've been kind of spraying some of the stuff around it, and since it's a plant room, I have dusted the whole room in the past before with DE as well, with diatomaceous earth. So I've just got that stuff like all over the edges of the room, all over the plant racks. So there's kind of that going on too. Okay. So far so good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I would say honestly fungus gnats are like my biggest problem.
Yeah.
And I think 90% of people with houseplants have fungus gnats.
Yeah. So like for me, when I like would research about fungus gnats, I'm like, are they fruit flies? Like, why are they so attracted to moisture in the soil? And it's really because our soil develops fungus. And that's natural for our soil to have fungus. In nature, like these plants depend on the fungus. The fungus depends on the plant. So I don't mind fungus being in my soil because it's just going to be better for your plant in the long run.
Mushrooms are usually a sign of happy soil.
Exactly. Yeah. And so for that, like it's like, what battle do you want to pick? What road do you want to go down? Because there is a way to get rid of, like, you can get a fungicide and a pesticide in one. But like I said, I don't mind the fungus in my soil because it's good for my plants. And you just have to basically just use a pesticide. And I've only had to deal with fungus gnats. I use neem oil. I'm a huge proponent in neem oil. I feel like it's helped so much. I do have this rosemary oil spray. That thing is amazing. I got it from Tagawa Gardens here in Denver. And that thing, like, you just spray anything and it just dies immediately.
That's awesome.
And a lot of people have an issue with figuring out how to use certain oils to kill certain pests.
Right.
A lot of them has to be on contact because these bugs have an exoskeleton and their lungs are typically like not necessarily on the outside, but like breathing it in. That's what kills them on contact. So for like adults, I use a spray and I will spray the top and they die instantly. For the eggs and the larvae,
and
that's
the
when
soil.
I put it and I'll do the watering. I have also used what's called fungus bits.
Yeah, like mosquito bits on the top.
Yes, and so that stuff, it's like these little pebbles. I actually used it today because a lot of my plants I noticed didn't have it. But you just sprinkle it on top, and then as you water, that chemical gets released each time it goes into the soil and kills any type of flying bug, babies, things like that.
And that's great.
And fungus gnats, typically, like the larva will like suck the nutrients sometimes, like.
Yeah, if you have a bad problem, it can definitely affect the plant.
And then check the saucers too. I don't know if you've done this, but like my little saucers of all my pots, if you lift it, I can, like one day I lifted it and I just saw like 10 little bugs like scurry.
Oh my God.
And I was like, what the hell? And I did it with every single one and there were just like multitudes. So I wipe now, I'll take my rosemary oil or my neem and I just purely just clean out the saucer and around the sides of the pots.
Yeah, of course.
And it's helped so much. I like dropped an A-bomb on those guys. It was awesome.
Well, that's good to know.
So highly recommend doing that if you get your hands on some neem or rosemary oil. I've heard like peppermint or not peppermint. Peppermint or cinnamon oil.
Yeah.
Helps a lot too. Deterring
more
pests.
organic.
And again, it's deterring. It's more and managing. You're always going to have pests.
Right. Especially as you buy new plants. So.
Yeah. And a lot of times people ask too, like, where are these pests coming from? When we bring plants into our home, it's like obviously important to check your plant at the nursery just to see if there are pests. But as you bring it from this, wonderful greenhouse that has like the perfect conditions, our homes suck.
Yeah, they're not the
Your
same.
home sucks. Sorry. It's not helping like as
not
much.
as nice as the greenhouse.
It's not as nice. We can give it amazing conditions, but it's not going to be like it was in the greenhouse. So it does go through an acclimation period or a stress period, and that plant is releasing signals. And that's what is attracting pests to it, because the pests see that, oh, this plant is going through a process where it's stressed out. It's easier for me to suck nutrients and love it and make this my home because it's almost like it's decomposing pretty much.
Yeah,
and that's
interesting.
the signals it gets. So
they can tell it's in distress.
It can tell. Yeah, it has spidey senses.
Huh.
So
I didn't know that. Yeah,
right?
That is really interesting.
Yeah. I hate pests.
Yeah, I mean, that's why people always quarantine new plants after you buy them from the nursery. You always want to just quarantine them for a few days and
for
a few weeks.
Do you do that?
Yeah, I'll usually try to quarantine them for like 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay.
Depending on how good I am at remembering.
Yeah, I do usually about like a week to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Just keep an eye on it. If I buy like a plant from like a big box store, I like basically pour gasoline over it and keep it in a corner for a few weeks.
Yeah. They need it.
They need it for sure. And then other little things. Do you have a moss pole or trellis? Do you use any of that kind of?
I actually don't have anything that crazy.
Okay.
Most of my stuff either hangs or is like wrapped along like the shelf that it's on. Like I've got a philodendron that's up on like a curtain rod that's just around it.
Okay.
Yeah, so just random stuff around the house, but not really like a dedicated moss pole.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm sure you have one for your Monstera at least.
I have one for my Anisonii, and I have one in my Rhaphidophora.
Okay.
Yeah, so because they just like to climb.
Yeah,
any kind of
those
aroid
leaves.
likes to climb, and the leaves get bigger when they climb, so it's opposed to like hanging. When they hang, they just get smaller over time as they start to trail, which is totally fine. So for certain plants, I was like, I'll try this, and I feel like it's made a really big difference as far as like the quality and the health of the plant.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they grow a lot faster.
Some really beautiful pictures of like even pothos if you let them climb, like golden pothos and cebu blues will get fenestrations if you let them climb high enough. It's really nice.
I love cebu blue pothos.
Yeah.
They're so pretty. That was like a really big like plant I felt like during like the summertime. It still is, but I feel like everybody was like going like super crazy over cebu blue pothos.
Yeah, there's a little while there where the box stores had them and everybody was like telling their friends, like, make sure you run out to this one here on like the street.
I remember we talked about that in Denver Plant Pals. Yep, I remember that. And then what about pots? What's your opinion as far as like what pots you use?
All right, so I actually don't have almost any terracotta pots, like at all.
Really?
Yeah, like really.
I guess, yeah, you don't.
I don't. Most of my stuff is actually in plastic or glass or ceramic.
Okay.
Most of it is just in stuff that doesn't breathe. And I've just gotten really used to it now. So I feel like if I got terracotta pots, I would definitely kill some stuff in the transition. So I don't really have anything in them. I actually have most stuff in plastic pots, which retains water pretty well. So I don't have to worry about watering them too much. Like my Phytonias are pretty happy overall, stuff like that. So yeah, pretty easy going. I know you have mostly terracotta, right? Terracotta.
Yeah, I have a lot. I think probably 80% of my stuff is in some form of terracotta, or what's the not slate. It's like the gray terracotta. I forget what it's called. You know what I'm talking about? You see it at like, it's next to like the orange terracotta, but then they'll have like a fancy gray terracotta.
I totally know what you're talking about. I have one pot like that, but I also called Licca like volcanic rock. So I have no idea.
Well, I have a few of those.
The gray ones.
I have a few of those, but I like the look of terracotta.
It does look really clean.
Yeah, it's like very uniform. And then I have like ceramic, so stuff that likes water. And I don't really want to worry about watering very often. I have in ceramic or a glaze pot. A lot of the stuff I kept in their nursery pots for a really long, like probably like 8 months. I was just so like, it's fine in here. I'll put it in a cash pot and like make it look pretty, but I'm not going to worry about repotting you. I just want you to acclimate super well.
Yeah, exactly. I do it with a lot of my plants. Unless I feel like I have to repot them. Yeah, I just let them outgrow their nursery pot.
Yeah, which is like perfect. And you can tell too, like, usually if you press on the sides of like the nursery pot, if you feel like there's a lot of give to it, it can stay in there for a lot longer.
Yeah.
But if like ZZ plants are like, I feel like really notorious for it because they're so bulbous. When I bought a ZZ plant, I like press on the side and it was like so hard. And then I tried to like take it out of the pot and it would not come out of its nursery pot.
Break the whole thing open to get it out.
Yeah, I had to like cut it open and like finally get it out of its nursery pot. And that thing was like freaking Hulk coming out of his shirt. Like it was
it's
so
crazy.
Funny.
That's like snake plants. Like I know they like being root bound, but if it's like breaking the pot or growing out from underneath the bottom of the pot, like it needs to be changed.
Yeah.
It's time.
Now, are you pro drainage hole?
Yeah. I'm not going to say it's impossible to grow a plant in a pot without drainage. It's possible, and I won't say that the rock
at the bottom and then the roots rot and then you cry.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. It's like asking for root rot.
Yeah.
It's tough.
But also drainage holes, like I know a lot of people with their like hanging plants sometimes won't have drainage holes in it. And that's totally fine. Like
they don't want it to drip everywhere.
Plant parent if you don't take your hanging plants down. Like so many people do that I know who have drainage holes in their hanging plants and they take it down, they take it to the sink and then they water it or they let it soak. And it's like, it's a lot of work. And if you have the time for it, go for it. But a lot of people just buy it, no hole, and they're like, great.
It is what
You'll
it is.
be fine. And a lot of times too that are hanging sometimes are like pothos. So they're a little bit more tolerant of that anyway.
Right.
Hello?
Samantha. Have you seen the new Frozen movie?
No, I have to
totally
see it.
Off topic.
I'm trying to see it. Hello? Take a hit. We interrupt this program to take a hit.
Thanks.
You can take a hit with
Thanks,
us.
Jilted Media. Appreciate you.
And then perfect. Beautiful.
Yeah. Quick tips for beginners.
Do you have any last tips you want to add? Things that you found that you've really enjoyed doing for your plants?
I'd say that's most of it. Like really just researching each individual plant and seeing what they need, trying to emulate that environment, and just using the basics for your basic first few plants that you get, you know, as you dip your toes into more complicated species. Yeah.
Cool.
How about you?
One thing that I've done, clean your windows.
Yeah, that'll make a big difference.
Through a lot better. Surprisingly, you get a lot better quality of sunlight when you have clean windows and your plants just receive it. It's the density of the light. So highly recommend that. And plus, y'all nasty, y'all need to clean your windows anyway, probably.
Makes a big difference.
Yes. So, but yeah, that's all I have to think about. Quick, if you guys have any other like little tips you'd like to add, you can post it on our Instagram. Like we'll have a post about it. So let us know if you have any little fun tips that you've recognized, and we recognize everybody's tips. Some tips work for others and some don't. So just remember that like what works for us may not work for you. So that's something to recognize in the plant community. So
yeah, so hopefully this helps, and we'll look forward to hearing all of your tips as well. Thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it.
Yes, and happy planting.
See you next week.
Bye.